We have some major Philadelphia Eagles news to get to. Big developments on the roster front for Philadelphia, in addition to some injury news from training camp. Before we dive in, this is why you subscribe to the channel. Whenever there's developing or breaking news, I have you covered right here on Eagles Now. You take a look at our subscribers gained over the last 3 months. We continue to build the empire here on Eagles Now. Appreciate all of you, all of the real ones and legends who support this program. In June, 1,200 new subscribers. July, more than 1,300. As of today's show, we're closing in on 1,200, and there's some meat left on the bone for the rest of the month of August. Let's get it. Let's get to 125,000 subscribers soon. And what we do, if you're not familiar with us, we give you Eagles shows every single day to make you a more informed Eagles fan. So let's get to all that news here today. Let's begin the show. Let's go. All right, here we go. Welcome into Philadelphia Eagles Now. Chase Sr. here with you. And as always, no matter where you are or how you're tuned in, thank you so much for making today's show a part of your day. A lot to get into here, as I mentioned off the rip. Let's begin here. It was the debut at Eagles training camp for John Metchie, the Eagles' new wide receiver, making his practice debut for Philadelphia. An interesting note, too, that I just saw on my Twitter feed. He almost went to Penn State. When he went on his official visit, he actually stayed with Jahan Dotson, who was a Penn State star in Happy Valley under James Franklin. And so Metchie has familiarity with Dotson. And then, as I mentioned, from his days at Alabama and his Alabama experience, Jalen Hurts and Devontae Smith as well. John Metchie in his first day with Philadelphia. He caught passes from Nick Sirianni. Sirianni getting the wing loose today as he was, by design, throwing low passes where Eagles receivers were challenged to go down and get it and then fall on a big padded mat. You're replicating a game situation. Sirianni, a college wide receiver, playing some quarterback today. What was also very interesting, John Metchie fielding punts. He has no prior experience as a punt returner with the Houston Texans prior to Philadelphia or at Alabama. And so the Eagles may be trying to maximize him, tap into his versatility, find ways for him to impact this football team. With no A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith practicing, or without them practicing, I should say, you saw Metchie mix in with the first-team offense. A.J. continues to deal with that hamstring issue, 18 days since he last practiced, and then kind of a maintenance day for Devontae Smith. The Eagles are doing this by design. They rested a lot of players today. They'll probably rest a lot of players the rest of the week so that after the third preseason game, they can really start game planning and preparing to take on the Dallas Cowboys on September 4th to kick off the 2025 NFL season. Metchie also catching a seam ball from Kyle McCord. No Tanner McKee at practice today, so it was McCord over Dorian Thompson-Robinson as the backup to Jalen Hurts. And now, as we look ahead to that preseason finale on Thursday against the Jets, John Metchie becomes one of the most intriguing players to watch in that final preseason game. Now, in his first 2 years, after he missed his rookie year, after getting diagnosed with leukemia, after he had torn his ACL in the SEC championship game, his final year at Alabama, that has caused him to get off to a slow start in his NFL career. I don't think it's for a lack of ability. I think it's all of that adversity that he hit, not being in the best situation with Houston because they already had a lot of wide receivers who were very talented and accomplished in front of him. And so he was always low on the depth chart. 2023, after he was put on the non-football injury list, his rookie year, 30 targets, 16 catches, 158 yards, 9.9 yards per catch, no touchdowns. And then in year two, 37 targets, 24 grabs, 254 yards, 10.6 yards per catch, and a touchdown. That came last year. So first 2 healthy years in the NFL, 16 and 13 games played. Very accomplished player at Alabama. He was a stud for the Crimson Tide under Nick Saban. And he was catching passes from the likes of Bryce Young. Prior to that, won a natty, catching passes from Mac Jones in 2020. That year, he had 916 yards. His final year at Alabama, 96 catches at the college level is insane. More than 1,100 yards, 8 touchdowns. Again, SEC championship game, tore his ACL. The Texans still took him with the 44th overall pick. And so he was looked at as one of the top wide receiver prospects in that draft class. And even though the Texans knew going to be a little while until he can play, perhaps because of the ACL injury, this was before the leukemia diagnosis, they still ran the risk of taking him at 44 overall after that torn ACL. And so I really like the player. Love what he did at Alabama. It hasn't worked out for him while at the NFL level, but I think it could, especially under this Eagles watch and tutelage from this coaching staff, because they have done a great job of developing players. What I also love about Metchie's game, he is a filthy route runner. Awesome footwork, very deceptive with his body, short area quickness and wiggle, the ability to win against man and press man. You combine that with the existing receivers on this team, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Jahan Dotson, I do think that he can have some success, maybe not getting a lot of opportunities, but looking good within those opportunities. And then next year, Eagles are going to be looking for a new wide receiver 3, because I think Dotson can go somewhere else and get paid. We were wondering why the Eagles made that trade for John Metchie, right? Given their depth at wide receiver and the players there and how they had played throughout training camp and in the preseason. Johnny Wilson came on. Darius Cooper came out of nowhere as a UDFA. Anaya Smith making really good improvements. You have Brown, Smitty, Dotson. You even had the likes of Elijah Cooks, Terrace Marshall playing well. But with the ascent of these young players, the Marshalls, the Cooks, the Danny Gray back in the day, they got put on the back burner. And Philadelphia has a lot of depth at that wide receiver spot. Has that taken a hit, though? Because some major breaking news here today from Eagles training camp. Eagles second-year wide receiver Johnny Wilson carted off at practice. Now, for context, I am recording this show at 12:47 p.m. Eastern time right now. We still don't have an update on Johnny Wilson, as injuries kind of starting to pile up for Philadelphia, but we do know as of right now, he was carted off at practice. So something semi-serious seemed to have happened with Wilson. And this is a player who has very intriguing size, 6'6", 227 pounds. Eagles drafted him in the 6th round out of Florida State in 2024, going into not just training camp, but going into the first preseason game. He was already on the roster bubble. Wasn't playing up to his size, wasn't taking advantage of his physicality, wasn't doing much in terms of production during training camp. And then that preseason opener comes around against the Bengals, and Johnny Wilson looked awesome. He played up to that size, 6'6", 227. He answered any questions that people have about his hands, because that was a problem with drops at Florida State. And he was physically imposing against Cincinnati in the preseason opener. And you look at his 3 catches that he had for 73 yards. What do you notice about all of these catches as we shift gears to the film study once again? A lot of people really like that with the Andrew Mukuba show. This is what you call winning a 50-50. Going up and getting it. That's a head top. That's taking a ball off a defender's head and using your 6'6" frame to come down with that catch. Now, he ripped it away. It kind of bobbled. Then he corralled it in. That was a great concentration catch. That was a great, I'm going to go up and get it and win this battle type of catch. And that is using 6'6", 227 to your advantage. Looking like a tight end, but running and playing like a wide receiver. That was the first catch from Tanner McKee. And shout out to McKee for giving him an opportunity to win these 50-50s. Because some quarterbacks won't do that. They fear the interception. McKee gives his receivers a chance. The second catch, this is mossing the DB here. And I think this was a slot fade where Wilson started off on the inside, then kind of faded out, and right outside the numbers, he's able to high point this football and rip it away from the Bengals defender. And then the third catch, maybe the most impressive, although all of these very impressive. This is a great anticipatory back shoulder ball from Tanner McKee, where he throws this toward the sideline away from the DB with great timing, accuracy, and the aforementioned anticipation. This is a back shoulder catch for Wilson here, where he was running down the field, And then McKee throws it back shoulder, and he had great body control to twist and twirl around at 6'6", 227 to snatch that ball out of the air with two strong hands and catch that back shoulder. That's what Johnny Wilson is capable of doing and being as a football player, and he gives Philadelphia something incredibly unique at that size. Last year when he was drafted, he wasn't just the tallest rookie wide receiver. He was the tallest wide receiver in the National Football League. And so let's hope and pray that Wilson is okay, because I'm intrigued by his development because of how unique he is as a player. Another camp observation from today. Look, I said this with the YouTube short on Friday afternoon. It just looks like Darius Cooper has made the team. With what he did against Cincinnati, leading the team in receiving yards, picking up yak, able to beat press man and catch that 20-yard touchdown. He looked awesome. Then he started getting runs with the ones at wide receiver with A.J. Brown out. Then the Eagles introduce him to special teams. Then he starts getting reps on coverage and kickoff return units with the first-string special teams unit. Then he didn't really do much against Cleveland, but he didn't really have to, because now in the practices since, he is still getting runs and targets with the ones. I highly doubt that the Eagles are giving Darius Cooper first-team reps that are so valuable to the success of this team in 2025 on August 19th, and then in a week from today, they're just going to cut him. I think he's on the squad. Now, we talked about the Wilson injury. We have another big injury to get to. Coming up next, another young player hurt, this time a rookie, Andrew Mukuba, second-round pick, who was the star of the show against Cleveland on Saturday at the Link, left practice due to a hamstring issue. Hamstring injuries, never good. They're tricky, and they can linger for a while. We'll get into that coming up just around the corner. Don't forget to give me a follow, though, on X and Instagram. I'm always talking Eagles here every single day with long-form shows, but I put out so much Eagles content on my social media pages as well, in addition to covering the NFL. It's at Chase_Senior on X and Instagram. I'm reaching millions of people a month over there, in addition to here. So help me grow the personal platforms there at Chase_Senior, and I love to interact with the Bird Gang. Before we get to that Mukuba injury, I want to give a shout out to our friends at Chubby's for making today's Philadelphia Eagles now possible. And anytime I have worn my Chubby's Eagles polos, whether it's this one or the green one, how awesome is that? People always ask me in the comment section, Chase, where did you get your shirt? I need to cop one right now. I got it from Chubby's. You can too. Head to chubbyshorts.com/chatsports. As part of the NFL collection, these Eagles Chubby shirts are available. We flipped the page. This is the one that I wore for that first preseason game. It is awesome. Love the material, love the fit, the comfortability, the look, and you get to rep the Birds while taking advantage of the remaining months of summer weather. And speaking of that, summer might be winding down, but there's still time to get some Chubby's gear. And you got to do it before it's too late. For a limited time, use our exclusive code, CHATSPORTS, at chubbyshorts.com/chatsports for $10 off. They have polos, they have shorts, they have swim trunks, they have Eagles polos. Now, as of right now, that $10 off doesn't apply toward that Eagles polo. We will have more information on that coming up next week. Comfy, casual, built for life. And if you get some shorts, you can pair that with the Chubby's Performance Polo or your Eagles Polo. It is awesome. Whether you're suiting up for cannonballs, cookouts, casual Fridays, hitting the golf course, taking a honey out for a date, a significant other out for a date for a limited time, Chubby's is giving our listeners $10 off your order. Use our code CHATSPORTS, chubbyshorts.com/chatsports. That's code CHATSPORTS at chubbyshorts.com/chatsports. Support our show. Let them know that we sent you. All right. Let's get to the Andrew Mukuba injury here. Left practice today with the hamstring issue. And what worries me about this is that he hurt his hamstring, came up lame in one-on-ones, then he tried to fight through it, didn't look the same, and he said, I can't do it any longer. That tells me he felt something in the hammy during one-on-ones, tried to get through it because he knows, shoot, if there were a game tomorrow, I might be starting alongside Reed Blankenship, and he couldn't. So clearly it was bothering him. this sucks. This is a shame. Now, I didn't expect Johnny Wilson to get a lot of targets, and so the Eagles can survive there, given the depth at wide receiver and making that trade for John Metchie. Part of the reason they did it, you can never have enough really good players on your football team. At the safety spot, I have confidence in Sidney Brown if he has to start alongside Reed Blankenship, but given what Mukuba did, what he accomplished, how he looked against Cleveland, I just think right now he's the better player. At that safety position, I'm all for having a thumper, but I think having a guy who's a ball hawk and makes plays on the rock consistently and is always around the ball and plays the game with great feel and anticipation, diagnosing skills, I just side with those qualities. And I think that Mukuba does it better than Sidney Brown against Cleveland. First professional NFL game, right? Because he didn't play the preseason opener due to that shoulder injury. 95.7 PFF grade. 15.3 passer rating allowed. Last year at Texas, lowest passer rating allowed among safeties when targeted in college football. Against Cleveland, the 75-yard pick six of Dylan Gabriel. He had a fumble recovery. Again, always around the ball. 0 missed tackles. I said this when the Eagles drafted him. He's a little bit smaller. It's a little bit of a concern because he does have a little bit of an injury history. And so far into training camp, he's had a shoulder problem and a hamstring problem. Grade 1 MCL sprain in his left knee in October of 2024. That sidelined him for 1 game. Missed 2 games as a sophomore because of a dislocated elbow and sprained MCL September of 2022. Sometimes smaller players, they can get banged up a little bit more often and easier. Hopefully Mukuba doesn't miss a ton of time. Hello, Justin Simmons. Eagles might be hitting your line. I love Mukuba as a player, and scouting him in the pre-draft process, really enjoyed watching the tape because of how he plays, especially at that lack of size at the combine. He was 5'11", 186 at his pro day, put on 8 more pounds. Numbers could be juiced, or he just put on some more weight because he was trying to run fast at the combine where he ran a 4.45 40. He's a heat-seeking missile, ladies and gentlemen. That passer rating allowed, 12.1. He plays big against the run, and we talked about this so much, right? He had 11 passes defended last year, 7 specific PBUs, 5 picks, no touchdowns allowed. And it was looking like Mukuba was close to locking down the starting job next to Reed Blankenship. If he's now out, and you got to be careful with these hamstrings because you re-aggravate that, you're out for a very long period of time. The recovery, whether it's a grade 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, takes forever because it's such an important part of your body, and you rely on it for explosion, running, and striding out. And so this is a hit to this Eagles defense. Best case scenario is not out for too long, but he's definitely going to miss at least some time, I would imagine, with this hamstring problem. All right, some training camp notes and a training camp reaction to round out the show here today. Appreciate everybody for continuing to hang out. Jalen Hurts today struggled a bit. Now keep in mind, he didn't have A.J. Brown, no Devontae Smith, Lane Johnson, Landon Dickerson, Johnny Wilson got carted off. He did throw a bad pick to Nolan Smith, who dropped back in coverage from that outside linebacker edge rusher spot. Nolan Smith, during the open practice, had a pick 6 at Lincoln Financial Field. So that's 2 big-time interceptions for Nolan Smith, who analytically, eye test-wise, was really impressive last year as a pass rusher. Even some of the standard numbers back that up. So Nolan Smith continuing to ball out. That's great. For Hurts, he did throw 2 touchdown passes. None that were like beautiful, insane throws. So being a little bit short-handed, having to throw to Darius Cooper and the recently acquired John Metchie with the first-string offense at times, not easy. But again, this is your franchise quarterback. Sometimes he needs to elevate the playmakers around him. Not a shot on him, just being real. Other camp notes. With no Tanner McKee today, Kyle McCord, as I mentioned earlier, got all of the QB2 reps. Not Dorian Thompson-Robinson. I agree with that. McCord, even though he wasn't that great on Saturday, played better than DTR. Just like his upside a little bit more. Jalen Carter had a PBU. He continues to be a menace from that defensive tackle spot. Jalen Hunt has had a great camp. 2 more sacks, this time against Matt Pryor. Those concerning injuries that we talked about. And the Eagles' first-string offense, the 3 wideouts, Jahan Dotson, Anais Smith, and Darius Cooper. Just tells me Cooper is making this team. If you enjoyed today's show, you like what I do, you found today's show informative, enlightening, entertaining, thought-provoking, Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and I'll catch you a little bit later because we'll be doing another show tonight.